The Ordinary Bruja, a tinsy tiny story. Part 4. This is a work of fiction. Names, characters, business, places, events, and incidents are either the products of the author's imagination or used in a fictitious manner. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. Drawn to the faint silhouette by the old metal railing, the lonely Bruja lifted her gaze. The mysterious man watched her with a gaze that felt both familiar and foreign. His form, barely there, shifted, like smoke from the tip of an incense stick dancing with the mist. She felt the weight of his stare, which seemed to peel back layers. I'm no bruja. Ordinary? Yes. But the brujeria and santeria, that was all mommy and mama, not me. Do you know why you come up this hill? He asked, his voice rough, as though pulled from deep within the earth. To lose weight, she wanted to say, but she knew it was much more than that. She knew that the superficial reasoning had evaporated long ago, and what had stayed was a yearning to commune with this landmark that had been part of her quaint town and family for as long as she could remember. Wheels are turning, I see, said the familiar yet foreign figure, and that's a good thing. The lonely Bruja scanned her body. It wasn't screaming at her, telling her to go and leave this place. There's a strength in you, a strength you haven't yet claimed. She crossed her arms, suddenly aware of her own form, of the way her body filled space. I don't feel strong, she admitted, more to herself than to him. And the figure's gaze softened. Neither did the others, at first. There was a pause, heavy with something unspoken. But eventually, they learn. They learn that strength isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's the quiet strength that endures, the strength to carry burdens, to rise again and again, even when others don't see it that way. A flicker of something, anger, maybe, crossed his face, but he seemed to tap it down, leaving only a shadow of sadness she couldn't quite place. But who are you? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. I'm someone who walks this hill, he answered, his tone evasive. I'm here to help you understand what you're capable of, whether you realize it or not. His tone shifted, growing firmer. I'm here because a woman in this family deserves to know their power, and it's my task to make sure that happens. The lonely Bruja studied him, sensing there was more beneath his words, layers of remorse, regret, and something deeper, like a storm held back by sheer will. He stepped closer, his outline clearer now in the thinning fog. You may think you're here by accident, that you're ordinary, and you are, but there is nuance to that. But enough about that. I waited long enough, and today I am giving you a choice to live small or to take your place among the women who came before you, women who sewed a layer of strength underneath their femininity. A hint of pride, almost wistful, slipped into his voice before it vanished. And the lonely Bruja looked down the hill towards the tiny one-bedroom home that had been part of the Espinal family since the day her great-grandmother fled the States. Her family was one of many, uprooted by Trujillo's men, driven from everything they knew as home. In those early years, this house had been a refuge, a place to rebuild. Yet over time, it became something more, a retreat, where the women of her family could escape, a sanctuary for quiet and healing. And when her mother passed, just before the pandemic, the lonely Bruja used the little house exactly as it was intended, as a retreat, a place to hide away, a cocoon where she could disappear from the world. Her mother had walked this same hill. So had her grandmother. The women before her had come here with purpose, determined to find strength in solitude. But Marisol, she'd been unsure. She never felt as if she found her place, unsure enough to leave school, feeling wrong about spending her mother's money while drifting aimlessly from course to course, wondering what she was meant to do. So when the stranger spoke of strength, the lonely bruja didn't see herself in that word. Instead, she saw her mother, she saw her grandmother, and her great grandmother, women with iron wills who knew themselves in ways she hadn't yet learned. I'll think about it, the lonely bruja said, knowing damn well she was not going to walk up this hill again. To be continued. Stay tuned for part 5.